Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, I'm going to show you how to reference static methods and properties within the class or within a subclass. Now, if you remember back in class underscore access.php, when we make that file, we were referencing that same class with a pseudo variable called this. So this would be the same name as this class, but this is how we reference it using an instance. All right. So now let me show you how this is done using static. Now, if you go back to static underscore modifier, you know that we had to use the name of the class in order for us to reference a static property, right? So let's do a save as on this document here and show you how this is done. Reference, static reference, there we go, .php. Perfect. So all we have to do is actually use the keyword self to reference this specific class. This is very handy, and you will find out later on when you're taking more advanced PHP courses. Since right now you don't know much about object-oriented programming, it makes no sense for me to go into details about it. I will confuse you a little bit, but there are times when we need self, when this keyword is actually very useful. But anyway, so let's go to the static reference.php on our browser and let's look at it. You see that it actually does the same thing that it did before. All right. So let's actually make another class and show you another example where we can reference the parent here through another subclass where we can reference static methods and properties. All right. So let's go ahead and build another class called trucks. Let's make extents and make sure that you are writing just like I'm writing right now. That way you can get some practice on how the syntax and how we use certain keywords. All right, so I'm just gonna take all this out of here. All right, so now in this truck class, let's make sure that we cars. Oops. Make sure that we have that this is extending it. So we have all the properties and all the methods in this class now, right? We are inheriting that. Now, what I want to do is, I don't want to echo anything anymore. I want to return a value. So let's return, and right. So I'm going to show you how this is done. I'm going to make, what I want to do is I'm going to make a method here, and this method is going to call this method right here. All right. And this way I can give you an example how I can use another keyword. So let's make a static method here called display. All right. Sometimes it's confusing for me. Not confusing, but I'm in the habit of calling it functions because I write a lot of procedural PHP in my other PHP course that I have, and we have a big project there going on right now. And I call it I use the word functions all the time. That now that I'm making this course, this brand new course, is sometimes I call it functions. But every time I call it function, just know that I mean a method. So I'm trying to get used to calling it method, even though for me it's a function, but we are inside a class, so it's best practice to call it methods. All right, so just get into the best practice mode. All right, so anyways, let's echo, all right, this method right here. All right, so the way we do that, I'm gonna show you these new keywords called parent, 2 double dots, because we are calling a static method, and that's it. That's all you need for that. Now we're not gonna see anything yet because we're not calling this display function, right? So we need to call this down here. All right, so we got to call first, we got to use the name of the class, 2 dots, and then the name of the method. Right, super simple, right? We come here and refresh, and we get this mistake there because we forgot the S. There we go. And as you can see there, we get that 4. All right, so let's recap a little bit so that way you can understand what we did. All right, we got some static properties here, and we're not using this, so don't let that confuse you there. All right, let's not let it confuse you. All right, so we got a static property. Then we have a static method that is actually returning the value of this property. All right. And then we have a class that is extending this class. We have the trucks class. All right. So this is inheriting everything. It's inheriting the method and the property. So basically has all the functionalities in here. We have all that stuff. But then besides that, we have another method that is actually calling this method right here, and this method is returning this value, so it's gonna return this wheel count to this here, right? And it doesn't have to be wheel count, it could be anything else. I mean, I just figure I put that in there, but you know, you can return it. Of course, you come from procedural PHP, you know, you can return anything you want. But anyway, so we're using, all we're doing here is using the word parent here. I wanted to show you an example. Of course, we can use the name of the class, but just for this, for demonstration purposes only, I wanted to use the parent keyword there, so that way you know that we can use this to call the parent methods or properties. All right. Anyways, hopefully this explained to hopefully this explanation was clear to you. You got the syntax on how to use the static properties and methods, and now you know two new keywords that you can reference those statics and those properties and methods either in the class itself with a self keyword or within a subclass with a keyword parent. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next lecture.